The next thing we're going to talk about today is seasoning, so making our food taste good. Now the good thing about cooking paleo is we focus on using fresh ingredients and healthy ingredients, things that taste pretty good by themselves. But in addition to that, there are a few very simple ingredients that we can add as seasoning to make what we cook more delicious. So the first one of those is going to be salt and pepper. I spoke about salt a little bit before. I like to use salt in moderation because there really isn't a significant other source of it that I get in my diet besides table salt. Now there are vegetables that have a certain amount of sodium in it, so do meats, but particularly with my activity level and for a lot of people that are going to be cooking paleo that are very active, I feel like sea salt within moderation is excellent, and it also helps to bring out the taste of your food. So we have salt, ground pepper is great. The thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you're grinding it as you use it. It just tastes fresher, tastes better that way. Another ingredient that I'm a fan of is lemon pepper. Lemon pepper is basically made from ground up cured lemon rinds and has some other spices in it. It's another thing I like to use fairly regularly. Two other things that are great, we have our olive oil. The extra virgin olive oil is going to have more of a peppery, richer flavor, and then you can get into first press. There are different degrees within that, but a decent extra virgin olive oil is both good for cooking with and good as a seasoning agent. Then we have some balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar is a nice and healthy, very tasty ingredient we can use obviously in salad dressings, things like that. Then we have stuff like herbs and other aromatics. This is a cilantro, but there are any number of fresh herbs that you can experiment with. I have a lime here. Citrus juice is great, both for seasoning meats and fishes, and then also in dressings. We have green onions or scallions are great. These are some Greek olives. I like to mince these up a lot and use them as a seasoning agent. We have red onion, it's wonderful. Garlic. And there are different combinations of these that you can play around with. The foundation being salt and pepper. So these are some basic seasoning ingredients that I like to use. Now let's talk about how to season, or types of seasonings. The first one is what I'll call pre-seasoning, and that's something that we use like we used in baking. So we're going to bake something, we're going to place it in the oven. We're going to want to make sure that all of the seasoning is complete before we start the cooking process. So that's pre-seasoning. You can do that with salt and pepper, with your herbs, with oil. You're seasoning it before you're starting to cook it. Then the next type of seasoning that we're going to do is seasoning in the pan, and you saw that in the sauteing. We're going to add in some salt to bring out the liquid, to bring out the natural juices, the flavor. Then we can add our aromatics at the end so that we don't overcook them and kill the flavor, and it adds a really nice flavor combination right at the end of the dish. So that's cooking, seasoning while cooking, or seasoning in the pan, which is our second type of seasoning. The last type that we're going to go over, not in detail today because this is an area where cooking gets complicated, but we're going to do a simple sauce today in the form of a dressing. Sauces can be some of the most complicated parts of cooking. Demi-glace sauce is a sauce that's very difficult to make. There are lots of suspensions, complicated sauces that can be very delicious, but that aren't really a part of what you need to know to eat delicious paleo food every day. We're trying to keep it simple. So what I'm going to do today is just a very basic salad dressing. I'm going to make one basic sauce today in the form of a dressing. So what we're going to start with is we're going to have a bowl to mix up our ingredients. We're going to have the liquid ingredients for the dressing, which is an extra virgin olive oil and balsamic vinegar. We're going to have our salt, our sea salt, ground pepper, and our lemon pepper. And then in addition to that, we have some fresh ingredients. We have one green onion, I have some cilantro, I have a lime, and I have 4 or 5 Greek olives. So again, the concept of mise en place. Before we start putting anything together, we want to have everything that we're going to put together ready. So I'm going to start by cutting up the things that we need to cut up to make the dressing. So we're going to move through the green onion. Again, we're going to lose the root end of the onion, and then we're going to dice. This is the dicing that we covered in the knife skills section of our video. Just move through, making sure that you have relatively even pieces of green onion. Then we're also going to do a dice with our cilantro. So I'm going to set aside our green onions. And the way you can do leafy herbs like this is really easy. I like to leave the stems. I feel that they're healthy. They have flavor within them. And if we're mincing them up fine enough, they're fine to eat. So I like to bunch up leafy herbs like this. And again, I'm going to put the blade of the knife against my knuckles for safety and just kind of work through these so I get a very, very fine dice. And you can use this technique with lots of different leafy herbs. There are some like rosemary where you do have to remove the stem because it's too hard to eat. But with many leafy herbs, that's a great technique to bunch them up like that and then work your knife through so you get, a very nice fine mince like that. So there's our cilantro. Olives are similar. Olives you can move to the center of your board, kind of get them in a bunch, and start working your knife through carefully so you don't cut yourself. And then again, with our mincing, we can hold the knife over top like this, working smaller and smaller until we get a really fine minced olive that we're using as a flavoring agent, which is something that I really like, particularly in dressings. The only other thing that we have to cut is our lime. Our lime is easy. I'm probably going to use half a lime here. So all I need to do is cut it in half. If there's any obvious seeds, which I don't see, we can remove them. And then we have everything cut up that we need. So mise en place, put in place. Everything is set. So what we're going to do next, we have our bowl. The base of any dressing is an oil, or any salad dressing, basically. Most salad dressings. So we're going to take our bowl. We're going to put in enough olive oil, probably around ½ a cup. I've made enough dressings that I know the proportions by eye, but you're going to have, say, if you want to cook for a handful of people, maybe a ½ cup to a cup of oil is going to be certainly enough. So then after we add our oil, the next thing that we're going to add in is our vinegar. A lot of people have a tendency to put too much vinegar in dressings to the point that it covers all and overwhelms all the rest of the other ingredients, which is something that I really don't care for. So with our balsamic, we're just going to take this and we're just going to splash in a little bit of balsamic. So certainly not 1 to 1. We're going to have maybe a few tablespoons of balsamic for our, ½ cup to cup of olive oil. So those are our liquid ingredients. After that, we can go ahead and we can take our liquid ingredients and we can place our green olives, not green olives, but green onions. Green onions, our cilantro, and our Greek olives right into the bowl. After that, we have our lime. I'm going to say ½ a lime is probably good for this dressing. Lime, in that it's acidic, is similar to vinegar. It can overpower other ingredients easily. So all we're going to do is we're going to use our hands and we're going to take it and we're going to squeeze the juice through from one hand, through the other one. And all that does is if there ends up being any seeds, we can catch them in our other hand. So we're going to do that. Lastly, we have some more seasonings, so we're just going to do a touch of salt. We're going to grind some pepper in. And we're going to do a touch of lemon pepper. Shut that. And we have another extremely complicated cooking implement, which is a fork. I'm going to take the fork and we're just going to blend or whisk our dressing until it's incorporated. And we're probably going to have to do this again at the table because the oil and vinegar will naturally separate. But what this does is it just starts to diffuse and incorporate the flavors throughout the dressing. And there we have a simple balsamic vinaigrette. And that is our seasoning section.